everyone, welcome to HOA Fight Club. Today I'd like to discuss fines and fees for people that are in homeowners associations and condo associations. So I know I've discussed this before. So I've been dealing with some people this week that have been fined for something they didn't do. And to prove that, they had requested a due process hearing, and the board didn't go by the CC&Rs. They keep trying to skip steps. So instead of fining a person for something they felt they did, they just hired an attorney, and then that attorney made threats to those people to pay not only the fines and fees, but to pay for his $3,000 worth of attorney's fees. So when somebody fines you in an association, if the board gives you a fine, you have the right to due process. Now, I know that sounds, everybody says due process, and it's kind of just one of those things that everybody just kind of expects that happens, but it doesn't happen. You have the right to be heard, and you need to take your voice and make it heard. So if the board fines you for something, you need to ask for a due process hearing. The next thing you need to do before you even go to that due process hearing is the board has to show you evidence that they have found you doing something wrong. So if your grass is 2 inches too high, they have to take a picture of that grass and they have to send it with proof, with evidence that you did break the rule. Now, if that rule has been broken and you really did break the rule, I still would ask for a due process hearing to go over why you did it. It was COVID, you were sick, you didn't have time, this is the reason why. You apologize and you won't do it again. But if you didn't cause that damage or you didn't break a rule, you need to also ask for a due process hearing and make sure that they have evidence to show that you broke that rule. Now, if they don't have any evidence, you have the right to see that evidence before you even go to do a process hearing. If they don't have any evidence of you violating a rule, you need to ask for that violation to be dismissed right away, because there's no reason for them to even hold a due process or fine someone if they don't have any evidence. So if an attorney contacts you prior to having a hearing with the board, you need to remind that attorney that you have the right, according to the CC&Rs and the law, to follow the process. The board should have to make sure that you have your, I call them Miranda rights for HOA. We have the right to Miranda rights. When an association finds you, they need to send you a letter, and they need to spell out in that letter what the process is for you to appeal that violation, or to show that you didn't do it, or to give reasons why you did do it. So if they're not sending you those forms, in mine it was Appendix A or something like that, if they're not sending those forms, they're violating the process. So they are in violation of the rules, and they should be fined. They should be held accountable for violating the CC&Rs just as you are. We are all homeowners there, and we fall under the same guidelines and the same CC&Rs. So if a board is violating the rules and the property managers and the attorneys are the ones violating the rules, we need to hold them responsible. Now, the way I do this is, the first thing I do is an attorney has the ethics board that keeps track of what they're doing. So if an attorney is not following the CC&Rs, he's not following the law. And you need to point out to the ethics board how this attorney is violating the CC&Rs, which is a violation of the law, because those CC&Rs are what he is enforcing, he or she is enforcing. And we need to make sure that they're enforcing things legally. If they're not enforcing things legally, they need to be turned in for ethics violations. Then the property managers, they're also to be held harmless for things. But if you see that they are taking advantage of the CC&Rs and the law for profit, I would report them. I would report them to the FTC, to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I know in Washington State, they are actually passing a new consumer protection law that will help homeowners if they know how to use the laws. Because what happens when these boards and these attorneys steal your home, that hurts commerce, that hurts trade, that hurts everything. That hurts the citizens of Washington State, that also hurts everybody in the United States. We need to start standing up for our rights. I want to make sure that people understand that fair housing is probably not going to help them, and how we need to take this to the next step. It's not just the board members that are taking advantage of these CC&Rs. It's the attorneys and the property managers and the construction agents and everybody else that is in line for a payment from that association. You know, the association just makes decisions, and the board just does whatever they feel they are going to get away with. So when I moved into my association and they were fining people into foreclosure, they all of a sudden wanted to hold me accountable for violating rules when they were the ones that were in violation of the rules. We need to make sure that boards don't spend money on attorneys. Remember when they fined my family, that cost $38,000 one year, $26,000 the next year, and $28,000 the year after for attorney's fees. Think about the things you could do in your association for that kind of money each year. You know, people are I know our association didn't have permits for the roofs. There's water intrusion. There's all these things that they are supposed to be taking care of, and they weren't taking care of them. Instead, they were just finding people and stealing their homes. So hold your board accountable. Hold the association accountable. Hold the attorneys and the property managers and any professional agents accountable. Watch your reserve studies. Make sure that they match up from year to year, because I know that there was fraud in reserve studies also. They seem to work with the association so that the association doesn't have to spend any money because they want to have money in the reserves. There should be no money in the reserves if you do not have the stuff at the condo or the HOA. If the common areas are in disrepair, that money should be spent repairing those things so people don't have to live in substandard conditions. So again, rules are meant to be followed. I agree with that. I think that people should follow the rules. If you get fined and you did it, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you need to explain why you did it. If there's a valid reason, the board shouldn't fine you and you shouldn't do it again. If you are not in violation of those CC&Rs, then you need to speak up. You need to defend your home, because these people, once they fine you for once, if they find out that you're going to pay that fine with no problems, then guess what? They're going to fine you again. I was fined every month in my association until that board was dismissed. And it took a lot to get it done, but it happened. And you know what? In the long run, it'll be better for the future homeowners. Hopefully. You never know. Every board's always one vote away from a bad board. All right, I'll see you on the next one.